See by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I want to focus on housing affordability. Well, we don't have a research team, right? We have about 8 staff members who collaborate on a daily basis. We don't have a data, right? We don't have original data and all of that stuff. So we relied really on our partners like Freddie and the National Association of Home Builders, National Association of Realtors to come together and actually write a white paper that will be released shortly when Kurt comes on. So this is Kurt's legacy, is it not, Kurt? This is what he wants to be remembered for. And it's not going to be a one-off type of event or initiative. It is going to be something that is going to continue in perpetuity, hopefully. Housing affordability, as we know, even started before the pandemic. It became worse post-pandemic. And it is an issue for not just Asian Americans, but all Americans. We are greatly impacted, Asian Americans are greatly impacted because we live in places like Southern California that are high-priced markets. So the affordability crisis is even much more acute than the rest of, the rest of the population. So here we are, we're taking a look at solutions that we can do now, kind of like short-term and long-term solutions as we take a look at bridging the gap of affordability, housing affordability, for not just the Asian American community and for all Americans to increase homeownership rate for all of us. So without further ado, Kurt, will you please do the honors and give us our welcome remarks? And please enter from there, that way we are not going to have an accident.
For the intro music, I know there are people that we have that have come from out of town, out of state to be here. If you can raise your hands, that would be great. Yeah, please give them a warm hand. Thank you so much for coming from such far distances to be here, because we're talking about something that is an issue for really across the nation. We have what people estimate as a $5 million deficit in homes. And when you have that deficit and you don't have enough home supply, unfortunately, the dream of home ownership becomes a lot more difficult for everyone, especially those from diverse communities. And this is why I wanted to make it an initiative for this year, my main initiative, because unfortunately you saw some microaggression that happened during the pandemic. The finger is pointed at us for causing the pandemic. And unfortunately, there was incidents where, we wanted to have that addressed, and Amy during her year had to, be the person that was the face for Asian hate during that time period. And I thought the best thing that we can do is to really create more supply, because unfortunately when 20 people make offers and only one person wins, that means 19 people's dream of home ownership didn't get to be realized. And that was going to be a problem for our nation going forward. And it's a problem also for you as real estate professionals, because unfortunately when transaction volume is down, that means it makes it harder for you to make a living. And it's estimated that about 25% of our economy is actually attributed to real estate. And you have to think of that beyond residential real estate. You have to think about commercial real estate as well. A lot of things still operate in brick and mortar. And when you think of all the different trades that are involved in land development and everyone that's affected by that, it really affects our economy as a whole. And I really want to take my hat off to the home builders that are really trying to increase supply, because they have a really tough battle. Because the entitlement process in some areas could take 3 years, in some areas it could take 20 years. And that means that home builder actually has to have the financial wherewithal to sustain themselves over 4 market cycles. And when you think about the tremendous risks that they're having to take and the profitability they have to consider, but then you also have the city officials, and you have to meet the needs of what the city is trying to accomplish as far as schools, you know, the resources for having police, fire, support services. And then you have to think about the neighborhood concern. They want to have integrated walkways. They want to have a place that's not just a home, but a part of a community that they can be part of, because that's a large part of why people want to own a home. It's because they want to be a part of a larger community. So yes, thank you so much for AREAA National for making this dream, this initiative possible. I know I expended a lot of the resources of AREAA National to make this happen, and I want to thank the staff for making this happen. Jordan, you know, has just on the national, he's a tremendous talent. He wrote a wonderful white paper that will be available to you later on. And I just wanted to tell you a little story about Jordan, because we were at karaoke, and I just wanted to test how talented he was. So I asked him to sing Conte Partito, which is in Italian, and he actually sang it flawlessly. You know, so amazing talent. And the other thing I wanted to do is, the mayor still in traffic and everyone?
No, he's here. Yeah,
So what we'd like to do is, oh,
he has his.
okay. The mayor's here? Okay, all right. So we're switching things up because of traffic a little bit here, so thank you for your understanding. So I'd like to have a few words from Mayor Paul Leon. He was appointed to the Ontario City Council in 1998. He was later elected to the City Council in 1999 and re-elected in 2000 and 2004. He served as Mayor Pro Tem December 2002 until January 2005. Paul was elected to mayor in a special election June 2005 and re-elected to 4 terms in November 2006.
And that is enough.
Really?
That's enough. I won't have, that'll take up my entire time to speak. I always wonder why all of that is necessary. I've been mayor for 19 years now. I came on city council in 2000. I started in the city council in the 1900s. Yeah, I started in 1998, and I did not have a political background. I had a social work and ministry background. I was a minister, but also a social worker. And what happened is there was a vacancy occurred in the city council, and a lot of people were jumping and saying I should be the next unelected official. And the guy who had become mayor said, I want somebody who's doing something in this community, not people who promise to do something. And he just literally plucked me out of the community. I had no idea what it meant to be a city council member. I had no idea what policy versus management meant. I had been in the military for during the early 70s, and it's your turn to say, you don't look old enough for that, but shame on you all. I got out of the military, spent 4.5 years, and then came here in '77. And I grew up in Ojai. Anybody know where Ojai is?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. A place where they do not want affordable housing. Yeah, they don't. I still deal with them there. I helped a guy run and lose the last mayoral race in Ojai. But he didn't do what I said. That's why he lost. But, housing was one of his issues. The guy is a very famous guy, and I thought, oh, that's going to carry him to the top. Let me tell you something. Fame doesn't do it. There are other things. My friend is Anson Williams, who was Potsy in Happy Days. He ran for mayor of Ojai last November and lost. We lost. But I won here. So going back to my history is that I've always been concerned about people and families and how to engage with them, but also improve the lifestyles of people. I was not wealthy in Ojai. If you know, Ojai is a very wealthy community, and it was even then, back in the 1960s when I was growing up, and I just had to, my family, we were the very few Mexicans in the community, and I think there were 3 Mexican families in Ojai at the time, and my family, we were considered a service family. That means my mom cleaned houses, and me and my 4 brothers, we did yards before landscaping services were actually out there. It's kind of funny because I think to myself, man, I could have really made it if I had understood who I was. But here I am. So when it comes to Ontario, I want to, first off, I want to welcome you here. And I want to talk to you just a little bit about our dedication in the city of Ontario to what we have redesignated, and for a reason, workforce attainable housing. You know, there's a, I'm looking for the right word. There's a negative connotation to the word affordable. When I was growing up, my family was actually from South Central Los Angeles, and if you don't know the history of South Central and Watts, it was Italian and Mexican. We used to call us Mexican, now we're Latino, but she's still Mexican to me. My Mexican family actually came from central Los Angeles. A lot of my family was displaced when they built Dodger Stadium, but most of them had already moved to the suburbs called Watts in the 1910s, 1920s, and then that's where they were settled. And we moved from that area to Ojai in 1958 or 59, somewhere around there. And that's why I grew up in Ojai and my family. But there was always a movement of people throughout time that you drive till you can survive. Yeah, it still happens today. People drive until they can find a home that they can afford and survive in. And then when my parents, being very young in being married and stuff in the early 1940s, they moved to Ojai because it was still a place that they could survive and work. And my parents bought their house. Just to give you an idea, I still own my parents' house. My parents bought their house for $9,500 in Ojai. You're all, oh yeah. Oh no, you're gonna, really, it is worth today $950,000. You wonder why I keep it? Their house is about half the size of my house here. And my house is not worth $950,000. When we look at today's workforce and today's younger generation, in California, when people ask, why are people leaving California? It's because they're driving to survive. They cannot afford a place here. But when many of my family members back in the day didn't all get to move to the suburbs of Watts in South Central Los Angeles, they moved to this place and more towards the central Los Angeles called the Projects. And I had a lot of my older like my aunts and uncles on my mom's side, they lived in the projects. And I can remember the shame of them living and coming from the projects. Today, that schism or that thought or that separation of those who have and those who have not has landed on the definition of affordable. So I find communities resist that moniker of that market when it must be built by what are called AREAA numbers of the state. We have to have housing in our community that the workforce can participate in purchasing or renting. And that's why we have taken a hard stand in marketing workforce obtainable housing. And it has calmed down the argument of what we're building. Plus, we demand from our developers who are building these things, because we are investing tax dollars into these developments, we demand that they have such things as after-school programs for kids, on-site management, and definite upkeep standards that they cannot let go of. And if they do, then we'll receive that property from them. The way that I see your business, the way that I see the real estate business is, as everyone knows, if you buy a house, you want it to appreciate. And so how do you transfer the affordability or obtainability to the single house dwelling as values appreciate almost faster than anyone can keep up with it? So you have to begin to think of a way to describe your market and your product that is acceptable to the local community, and also make it nice enough that somebody's going to want to stop here. We have some neighborhoods in Ontario that have been historically less than other neighborhoods, but even those neighborhoods are selling at an incredible market rate. When I see a 900 square foot house that is almost falling apart with a backyard that backs up to a national railroad, selling for $550,000, I understand the difficulty of your jobs. But at the same time, there are people lining up to get that house. So it's all in the message, it's all in the marketing, that's what you do, it's all in the package, but it's also in the understanding of what people see and hear as to what that product means. And in California, we're not declining in population. I mean, people always want to point out to the negative things that the state legislature throws out, which I agree, has a portion and a part in why people leave, but mostly it's just driving till you can survive. And people are leaving here with a sale of a home that nets them about $300,000 and moving out of a tiny home, let's just say a 1,000 square foot home, and moving to Tennessee and Kentucky and buying near a mansion for that, cash out. $300,000 for a 2,400 square foot home, 2-story in a nice neighborhood. For me, I want to keep people here in our city. So what we do in the city of Ontario is we redefine ourselves, redesign ourselves into the modern premier city of the region. Somebody give me a flag like time is up, because my watch is broke. There, she's waving at me already, I'm sorry. So we build into the city of Ontario premier amenities that make people want to stop and think that it might be a start and a difficult start to get into a home today. But you're going to have a lot of amenities when you move here. You're going to have a convention center like this. You're going to have an international airport in your backyard. You're going to have a much larger, soon to be much larger arena that is professional sports and entertainment. We're going to be increasing its size this year. We're building a sports complex facility where we'll have minor league baseball and other things in the south. We have our, the Ontario Mills, by the way, if you're out of town, you gotta stop there. It's a value mall. So I used to say one time, it's the largest people attraction in the state of California is the Ontario Mills. It gets more people than Disneyland every year. And the mayor of Disneyland at the time was there, and he said, it costs you $300 to get into Disneyland. That's why. And I said, no, you're wrong. My wife shops at the Ontario Mills, and it costs her $1,000 to get out. So I think it's fair. We have these world-class amenities in the city of Ontario that are attractive to the buyer. And even your surrounding cities benefit from what we're doing here in our city. But if there's anything that I could really drive to you in your business, change the conversation of affordability to the fact that our workforce, our young teachers, our startup people in all of the different jobs of the region, carpentry, electrician, plumbing, even startups in office, all of those startup jobs need housing that is obtainable for that workforce. And when people don't listen to me there, I tell them, well, then where are your kids going to live? With you? I am a member of society's baby boomers. Remember, you ever heard of them? You know, they're the ones who came after the greatest generation. Then you get the baby boomers. And then the baby boomers had, but now we're all the way up into Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Z, you know, whatever. You know, the kids that can't do anything but this. The baby boomers like me had children called boomerangers. The next generation after me was the baby boomerangers, who are now about 45, between 40 to 50 years old. Those were the boomerangers. You know why they called them that? Because they left and came back. If we're going to have a generation ZXP plus, they need to have a place that they can obtain and stay and invest in with their own families that doesn't bust their bank. That's a great place to live and a great place to live. That's what we do in the city of Ontario. We do the best we can to give people an opportunity to obtain a home and a living and the best place that they can live. So I just wanted to say thank you for what you do and help me to continue to promote not affordable, not a project, stay far away from those words, get into workforce, obtainable, and then at the very last thing say, where are your kids going to live if we don't do this? Thank you for coming in town.
Mayor Leon, thank you so much for being here today. You know, we did pick Ontario because of all the exciting things that are happening in the city of Ontario. We did have a promotional video. When we have our break, for those people that want to see that promotional video, we'll cue that up for you. So that would be great. At this time, Congressman Norma Torres is actually in the building. I'm sorry she suffered from the traffic that we have here, but let me give her introduction. Congressman Norma Torres represents California's 35th Congressional District in the Inland Empire area, which includes Chino, Montclair, Ontario, Pomona, and parts of Chino Hills, Eastvale, Fontana, Rancho Cucamonga, and Upland, Farming area. She previously served as a state senator, assembly member, and as a mayor and council member of the city of Pomona. Throughout her career in elected office, she has worked to make government more responsive to the needs of the Inland Empire residents. As state senator, Norma Torres has played a significant role in making the Affordable Care Act work for California's patients and consumers. Her law to diversify the covered California board so it would work better, prepared to enroll the uninsured, and earned her statewide recognition and national attention. As chair of the Committee of Housing and Community Development, she led an effort that secured $2 billion in federal funds for the Keep Your Home in California program, which helped thousands of families keep their homes during the foreclosure crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Norma Torres to the stage. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's quite an honor to be here with all of you, and it's always a pleasure to follow the Mayor of Ontario. I want to thank the Asian Real Estate Association of America for choosing Ontario to host this event. You know, home ownership is really the key to the middle class. And I remember way back when, 100 years ago, as a young couple in our early 20s, my husband and I decided we're not going to have this big wedding that we, dreamed of. We are going to instead invest the money that we have saved and buy a home. And that was possible back then. So we bought our first home, and our realtor that we had hired, we told them anywhere but Pomona. Because we had heard about all these crazy stories about Pomona and crime and this and that, right? But my real estate agent understood the community. She was really vested in the community and understood that while Pomona had this reputation, it might still have it, at times, there were a lot of great neighborhoods where I could move, where I can buy my first home, and where I can raise 3 sons, and where now my 2 grandchildren are growing. So that is what you offer to a young couple or to a couple that are trying to, leave this giant home and maybe downsize to a smaller place. I have so much respect for what all of you do, because you know our neighborhoods even better than some of our locally elected officials, I feel, because of that. And while the housing crisis of 2010, 2011 really brought on a lot of tough times for the Inland Empire, the communities that I represent. You see, the Inland Empire continues to be the fastest growing county in the US. But when we have a downturn in our economy, when we shut down the federal government because of a horrible, deadly pandemic, when the housing crisis, shatters, we are the first to feel that pain. So it is critically important for us, all of us, to be vested in focus on improving our communities, in building the housing units that we need, so that your agents could do their work. And while, yes, those were really tough times when I served in the state legislature, and it was as hard as it was, we brought $2 billion home to California to ensure that, people could stay in their homes. People who still had a job can continue to pay their mortgages, and in some cases, help them write down those mortgages. I don't know that that kind of assistance could pass in Congress in 2023 or 2024. So what can we do? What can all of us do to ensure that we are preparing? In our office, what we have done and focused on the last 8 months is we're looking at the cost of, number one, fire insurance. Number two, high cost of local property taxes and all of the fees associated with that. Because my constituents continue to raise concerns about the fact that their fire insurance the payment that goes into their escrow account is many times, for many of them, higher than the amount that they pay into their principal. So this is an alarming, red flag for me. And in Congress, I got together with a California delegation, and I asked them to convene a meeting with the California Insurance Commissioner, because we need him to work on these issues, because we cannot afford to have another crisis where people are losing their home as a result of higher interest rates, higher fire insurance, or increasing local property taxes. We need to help people stay in their home, and we need new home buyers. We need our cities to build the number of units that we need in California. The Inland Empire is not the worst. We are actually, our cities, I want to congratulate the city of Ontario for one, and the city next door, city of Fontana, because they're actually building units. They are actually permitting, and they're being very aggressive at building, the units that we need for the next generation. So I think it's important to recognize that. One of my selling tools for our community, whether you are an employer, whether you are a manufacturer, or you are someone looking to buy a home in the Inland Empire, I like to tell people we're 40 minutes away from everything. You wanna go to the beach? 40 minutes. You wanna go to the snow? 40 minutes. When it's raining and when we get, wanna go to the desert? 40 minutes. And all highways come this way. So make the Inland Empire your home. Invest in the Inland Empire. I have recently convened, just for your information, a meeting with home builders, a meeting that included mortgage brokers, water masters, the local jurisdiction planning masters, the city managers, all of those folks. Because I needed to have them all in the room to think about, how do we work together? And what more do we need, and how I can help them in my position in Congress. I serve on the Appropriations Committee, on the Transportation and Housing Subcommittee. So it's a critical opportunity for us to focus on issues and to get federal resources to this region to ensure that we continue to thrive and we can keep our status of being the fastest growing county in the U.S. So thank you for coming to Ontario. Ontario Mills is a great place to go shopping. And if you have any doubts, ask my staff. When they come from Washington, D.C. to Ontario, they bring empty suitcases. I hear that is a great place to go shopping. Again, if there's anything that my office can do to assist you in the work that you do, if there's anything that we can do to assist your future client, please reach out to our office. We're just down the street, and if you are from out of town, utilize our airport because it's a great little airport, and you can't go to LAX because you'll get trapped in a 1 or 2 hour traffic jam. And TSA is not as friendly as they are out here. So if I may take a minute to present this a special certificate of recognition to the Asian Real Estate Association of America.
Thank you so much for coming too.
Congratulations, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, Norma, for that, your speech. Thank you so much for coming. You know, this event would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors, and one of those sponsors is Wells Fargo. And I would like to introduce Joe Filippelli. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name. Joe's been with Wells Fargo for over 10 years, coupled with 25 years in the mortgage industry. He was hired as a branch manager, then promoted to area manager in 2015. In 2018, he was named the market manager for West LA County. In May of 2020, he was named the market manager for Orange County, where he resides today, and he has his wife and 3 children. Thank you, Joe.
Good morning. Kurt told me I only had 5 minutes, so I will promise to make it brief. And I was talking with my friend William Ruiz earlier, and he said, don't do the script. Well, I'm 53, and my car broke down on the way here, and I left my glasses, so that was my script. This is now my script. My parents owned a mortgage company. I grew up, my after-school job in high school, I was a loan processor. My sister's still a processor today. My brother's a realtor. I remember bringing documents, loan documents, to Mr. Grisham, my algebra teacher, and reviewing, you know, here's the Housing Financial Discrimination Act of 1977. Couldn't sign the 1003, of course. The favorite loan I ever did was the first loan I ever did. Was here in Ontario off of Euclid. It was a couple, husband and wife. Her parents trying to get on the loan at the same time. They couldn't qualify. Purchase price was maybe $140,000 at the time. And we sat down and we talked about a plan and how they could establish credit, how they could save money. I'm going to date myself, you know, help them get credit with Lock and Asta furniture. And then when they saved enough, we were able to utilize our FHA home program and utilize MCC and down payment assistance. And we were able to get that family a home. And probably for my career, the thing that made me the most proud was to be able to watch them actually get the keys to a house that they thought was never going to be possible. And it is very much part of that American dream. I'm a geek about mortgage. It's the only thing I know. But I do believe in home ownership and the American dream. I'm a firm believer if you take a city block and it's all tenants versus a city block that is all homeowners, that you're going to have more college education, you're going to have less crime, prison, addiction, all the above. And I think you're going to have more wealth long term. And so that's something that I'm extremely passionate about. That's me. You know, Wells Fargo, I've been with Wells now for the 14 years this month. We have 4 philanthropic strategies: increase the supply of affordable housing, expand home ownership opportunity, especially for people of color, increase housing stability, and finally support transformation and innovation. So you ask yourself, okay, so Joe, what does that mean? You know, it all sounds great. You know, put your money where your mouth is. Since 2019, Wells has donated more than $390 million to help address housing affordability, including partnerships with nonprofits and trades like AREAA. We've created Worth, which is the wealth opportunity restored through home ownership, where we've donated $60 million with the idea of creating 40,000 new homeowners in 8 markets throughout the United States by 2025. And then we have our expansion of our Dream Plan home product, which, as you know, some of you may know, we offer a $5,000 in closing costs. But coming soon to the Inland Empire and the Los Angeles market, we'll be releasing our Home Access Grant. which we'll call, for lack of better terms, a traveling grant, which is gonna be extremely powerful for people that live in certain MSAs or are moving out of certain MSAs, where if their median income is less than 120%, we're gonna give them $10,000 in a grant to cover either closing costs or down payment. So either moving into that MSA or out of that MSA to help improve home ownership. I just want to tell you all, thank you so much for allowing us to sponsor the event today. I'll be here for the bulk of the day. I'd love to chat with all of you. Thank you, and I hope you have a good day.
All right, I just wanted to give you a quick overview for the day. Our next segment is going to really be talking about housing supply across the nation. We'll have a refreshment break, followed by addressing the affordability crisis, and then accessibility as well. Our next session is going to be on housing supply, and I'd like to invite to our stage Mark Dowling and Fanyu Hua. If you can come up. And while I'm doing that, I'll introduce Mark. Mark is a licensed broker with more than 25 years in real estate, community, and development experience. Mark serves as the CEO of the 4,000-member Inland Valleys Association of Realtors, called IVAR. Prior to his position with IVAR, Mark served as the Economic Development Agency Administrator for the County of San Bernardino. With more than 220 employees and confined department budgets of in excess of $100 million, the EDA was comprised of 4 departments that included economic development, workforce development, redevelopment, and housing and community development. Prior to his county position, Mark was the vice president and partner with Dioro Properties LLC, a full-service real estate development company focused on infill residential development, rehabilitate housing projects. Additionally, Mark managed a Century 21 real estate office and escrow office in Ontario, California, with more than 40 realtor agents. Thank you so much. And also, we have Fanyu Hua, economist with the NAHB, specializing in conducting economic research and focus on macroeconomics and forecasting. She also plays a pivotal role in updating economic and housing data. Prior to joining the National Association of Housing Builders, Fanyu was a research assistant at the Academy Sinica. She holds a master's degree in international economics and finance from the Johns Hopkins University and an additional master's in international policy economy from King's College London. Fanyu, so you have a presentation? Take the stage. Thank you very much.
It's great to be here. I actually flew from Washington, D.C. yesterday, so I'll definitely check out the Ontario film. So in my presentation, I'll start by looking at the economy and housing demand before we dive into our topic today, the housing supply. And I hope by the end of this presentation, you'll see how it all connects and why it is important for us to think about housing supply. So let's get started. So the U.S. economy. So the U.S. economy grew at 2.1% in the second quarter of this year. And this number is stronger than expected, which means economy is showing resilience, even with higher interest rates and tighter credit conditions. But we believe the U.S. economy is in a mild or rolling recession, which means economic slowdowns happens in different sectors at different times, such as the housing recession we saw last year. So we expect to see a slowdown in economic growth in the second half of this year because of the tighter monetary policy. Although economy is slowing down, labor market remains tight, but we are seeing some signs of cooling. Some signs of cooling, such as unemployment rate tick up a bit, and wage growth slowed down a bit last month. And that's the Fed wants to see. But again, labor market remains resilient. The labor demand is still greater than supply. Although you can see that from this chart, the unemployment rate rose to 3.8% in August, but it's still near cycle lows. So we expect the unemployment rate increase to 4% in 2024 as the economy slows. Inflation, I have good news and bad news here. So good news is inflation has peaked for this cycle and is slowing down from 9% to 3%. But the bad news is 3% is not enough for the Fed. The Fed, their job is not done yet. They will keep rates at a high level until inflation is back to 2%. On the other hand, if you look at the shelter, the housing inflation, it remains at a high level. It accounts for more than 19% of overall inflation. The reason why we are seeing this high housing inflation is because of the low housing supply and higher construction cost. And the fact their ability to address this high housing inflation is very limited. The only way to bring the housing inflation down is to build more houses and apartments. But of course, we expect the consumer price will continue to go down this year. Speaking of monetary policy, so you can see we are now at the fastest pace of monetary tightening since early 1980s. The Federal Reserve raised 525 basis points since March 2022, bringing an upper rate to 5.5%, which is the highest level since 2001. And again, I have good news and bad news here. Good news is the Fed is suggesting the possible end of tightening cycle, which means we can expect mortgage rate to decrease, which will lead to an increase in housing demand. But the bad news is the Fed emphasized its commitment to bring the inflation back to their 2% target. So they might keep raising interest rates if inflation does not keep going down. So looking forward, we think the Fed will keep rates at a high level through the end of this year and will not start cutting rates until mid-2024. So because of the tightening policy, the 30-year mortgage rate increased to the 22-year high in August. But we believe the mortgage rate has peaked for this cycle and started moving lower since last week. Although we are likely to see volatility in the short term, we expect the mortgage rate will stabilize between 6.5 to 7% this year and will fall below 6% by the end of 2024. Once the mortgage rate drops to 6%, we expect to see more buyers coming back to the market, and by that, we might see more houses available as homeowners might be more open to putting their properties on the market. So this is the home ownership rate. So you can see the home ownership rate have been going up since 2015 and got a bit of push during the post-pandemic housing boom. But they are not still as high as they were back in 2005. But we think that this number will be a new normal because of the lower birth rate and housing affordability prices. In addition to the higher interest rate, home prices also have impact on home ownership rate. So over the past 2 years, home prices have been driven by strong demand and low inventory. So you can see here the U.S. home price has increased 41% since COVID, and 34% increase for California, 46% increase for Ontario metropolitan area. But you can also see that the price growth has slowed recently when interest rates started moving higher and potential buyers started pulling back from the market. So we are expecting the price growth will continue to decrease this year because of the higher interest rate and declining affordability conditions. We are expecting a 2% decline in home prices this year. But again, 2% decline after 40% increase. So the housing market will not crash. But yes, these higher prices will continue to price out those potential home buyers. So this is the NHB Wells Fargo Housing Opportunity Index. This is a measurement of housing affordability. So the US HOI dropped to 41% in the second quarter of this year, which means only 41% of new and existing homes are affordable to a typical family with a median income of $96,000. And this number is even lower in Ontario. Only 14% of the new and existing homes are affordable to a typical family with a median income of $94,000. So this data are available on our website, and you'll find out that the top least affordable major housing markets are all in California, including Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco. So the low inventory situation is also playing a big part in driving those home prices higher and putting pressure on affordability. So you can see the total housing inventory is now at the lowest level since 2000. So with not many houses available, potential home buyers will keep on looking at new construction as a big part of their house hunting. So if you look at the red area, this is the new home sales. So the market share of new home sales was 15% back in 2000, but the market share increased to 33% in 2022. Now, you might wonder why inventory is low. There are two main reasons. For the resale inventory, because the reason why resale inventory is low is because many homeowners, they are staying put because they got mortgage rates much lower than the current rate. So they felt locked in by the low mortgage they have. And another reason why the new inventory is low is because of the supply side issue, which I am going to talk about it. So, like on demand side, there are many factors at play in the housing supply, such as higher interest rate and higher construction cost. And our chief economist, Rob Dees, he has summarized those common issues that builders are facing, and we call it 5 L's, which includes lumber, labor, lending, lots, and laws. So today I'll focus on these 5 L's. First, lumber prices. So lumber prices were very volatile during the pandemic, but as supply chain issues started to normalize, lumber prices have stabilized recently. But we are concerned about the future trend of lumber prices because supply chain issue has not been completely fixed yet. So we might see volatility in lumber price if demand comes back. The second L is labor. So labor shortage is a long-term issue for housing market. Although construction labor market is now entering a cooling stage because of economy slows and housing market weakens. But we see the same story here. we believe this downward trend will reverse once housing market bottoms out and home construction begins to increase again. By then, labor shortage will continue to be an issue. The third L is lending. So remember the interest rate chart. Higher interest rates not only have negative impact on consumers and home buyers, but also have negative impact on home builders as well. So for home builders, they are facing tightening credit conditions and higher interest rates on loans for acquisition, development, and construction. About 60% of So about 60% of builders saying lending was becoming more difficult because of the financial market stress. And 29% of builders saying recent bank failures as a reason that lenders gave for restricting availability of loans. So again, tighter credit condition is one of the main reasons why we see a slowdown in home construction. So this is the next L is a large shortage. So according to the survey we did in March, about 67% of builders reported large shortage. Why we're running low on available lots? First, because of the lending. So the tighter credit condition I just mentioned, it makes it harder and more expensive for builders to get loans. And the average development and construction loan is well above 10% now. So the lot development is just gonna slow. And another reason why the large shortage is because of the government regulation, the last L laws. So this is the regulatory cost in an average single-family home construction. So the cost increased 11% from 2016 to 2021 to the $93,000. And on a percentage basis, the regulation cost accounts for around 24% of the final price in an average single-family home building. So this chart shows you how over-regulation is worsening the nation's affordability crisis, and policymakers should reduce those unnecessary regulations that help builders to increase their production. So this part is our forecast for each segment of the housing market, but it seems like we are okay. So now let's take a closer look at our forecast. So first, let me start with single family. So this is the housing market index. We think that this is a good leading indicator of the single family. So you might wonder, how about the single family housing forecast? So we believe the single family construction is moving off cycle lows because of the low resale inventory and strong housing demand. And this will drive these two factors are driving builders' confidence and single-family home construction in recent months. And we believe that once interest rates start to stabilize and move lower, we are expecting to see a sustained rebound in single-family home construction later this year, and will keep going strong in the next 2 years. However, remember that the 5 Ls. Builders, they are still facing those challenges. For multifamily construction, is a different story here. So multifamily construction is slowing after a strong run in 2022. So we are expecting a decline for multifamily construction this year, as we are seeing a record number of apartment construction will reach completion later this year. So you can see this is the housing unit under construction. So for the single family construction, you can see there's a pullback because of the higher interest rate. But for multifamily, we are having the highest count of apartments under construction since 1974 because of the strong demand. So for now, we have around 1 million apartments under construction. So that's why we expect to see a slowdown in multifamily construction because the construction pipeline is full. So like multifamily, remodeling market has been strong since the pandemic. Not just people, they want to have their own home office and have larger living space, but also people, they want to be able to age in place. Although the remodeling market has been slowed down recently due to declines in home sales and higher interest rates, we believe the remodeling market will remain strong compared to the single family and multifamily market. So now, let's wrap up by talking some few main points from my presentation. So first, the Fed is getting closer to the end of tightening cycle, but we might see one more rate hike in the coming months, which means we can expect mortgage rate to move lower in the coming months and will lead to an increase in housing demand. Second, we are in a rolling recession, which means economic slowdowns happen in different sectors at different times. And as the economy slows, we expect unemployment rate will continue to increase in the coming months. Third, inflation. Inflation has moved down from its peak, and although it's still higher than the Fed's 2% target, we think the Fed needs to pause or slow down their action because 90% of increase in inflation was housing inflation. So raising interest rate is not really doing much to bring down the housing inflation. It just makes it harder for builders to get loans. Next, we are seeing a divergence in housing market. Single-family home construction is moving off cycle lows because of the low inventory and strong demand, while multifamily construction is slowing down because, again, the pipeline is full. And lastly, as higher interest rates and higher costs are slowing down home constructions, especially in larger metro area, we see both single-family and multifamily construction shift to a lower density area. And we expect communities with ability to add affordable housing will grow. The last slide is the medium-term outlook. So it's very similar to the previous slide. The only thing I did not mention is the demographics. So if you look at the 2025 to 2030, we expect millennials, which is the largest cohort of population, will come of age, which means we can expect a strong demand, housing demand during this period. But after 2030, the next generation, Gen Alpha, we think that we will see a weaker demand because Gen Alpha, the cohort of Gen Alpha is much more smaller than millennials. And that's all I have for today. Thank you so much.
Daniel, thank you very much. For anyone that would like a copy of her slides, we will make that available to you. And thank you for that macro overview of what's happening in the building market. We also want to take a look at what's happening on a more local level. So Mark, can you tell us or give us an overview of what's happening in the county here?
Is this on? A little bit? Well, if you haven't figured out already, solving the housing problems of this country and state are not easy. It is a big, complicated issue. And thank you so much, Venue, for your presentation, obviously addressing macro issues such as labor market issues and monetary policy, all important, all play a role and have an impact on housing. But from a local standpoint, I think it's important, and now from a realtor standpoint, I run an association with about 4,000 realtor members here in the Inland Empire. And we're one of about 4 or 5 associations in our region. They all have thousands of members, and we all play a role in helping to facilitate better housing policies. Because the fact of the matter is, inasmuch as there are macro policies and macro issues in play, nothing gets built unless it is approved at the local level, okay? You heard the mayor talk about it earlier. There isn't a single housing project, a single development project that occurs in a city or a county that does not go through a process, a permit process, a CEQA process that is then approved by the city. So as a realtor association, we have no control over labor markets or monetary policies or anything at that level. The role we take and the role that our board of directors has encouraged me to lead the organization toward is impacting leadership at the local level to be pro-housing and to address the variety of housing needs within our community. We, as realtors, make our living off of transactions, typically single-family home sales. But that doesn't mean that we are negligent of the broader issues in our communities. The fact is we all want to have better, more livable communities, and that means housing for everyone. And we're really dealing with 3 kind of sub-crises right now within the housing industry, the housing market, which is on the homeless side, there is essentially no pathway for transition or permanent housing for homeless people. The second issue is the costliness of subsidized housing, whether it be Section 8 or affordable housing projects with tax credit, which is extremely expensive. And what we're probably mostly focusing on today is the affordable or workforce development housing, which is the market rate housing for people to buy that make a living wage and that are maybe even above the 120% income level but still can't buy a house. So what we've done at our association is we've tried to develop better leadership and reach out to existing leaders to get them to understand what the issues are and how they can be better stewards of our community. So we have a number of people that are realtor members of our association that serve on planning commissions. I'm a former planning commissioner here in San Bernardino County. We have a number of our members that serve as city council members, board of supervisors. Jesse Armendariz, past president of IVAR, is now San Bernardino County supervisor. Ryan Hutchinson, city council member here just up the road in Rancho Cucamonga, realtor. We have them scattered throughout the region, and we use them as kind of a touch point within our communities to help educate local officials, government officials, on the benefits and what we need from a housing standpoint. If you think about it, what is the incentive for a city mayor, city council member, elected leaders to develop affordable housing? You heard the mayor say it, it's taboo. There is no incentive. You will get voted out of office if you try to bring that type of development to your city. It requires a sensitivity, it requires nuance, it requires a backbone in leadership. And when you have a city council meeting or a planning commission meeting and there are 50 or 100 people screaming not to have a project approved, and you have 2 or 3 people on the development side saying, yes, this makes sense, chances are you're gonna lose. So you have to have some balance and some perspective, and to also get leadership in your regions to understand why we need housing for everybody. It's not just people that are in half-acre lots and 4,000 square foot homes. We have a broader perspective for housing for everybody in our communities.
Mark, you actually sit in a very unique position because not only having led a team of realtors with 40 people in your office, you're also the CEO of the association here locally, and you also have served as the economic development for San Bernardino. There's a lot of players that need to take a part for housing affordability or increasing supply. Is there anything you can do, like in your unique position, to kind of help foster that?
So if you think about affordable housing, we'll see workforce or market rate affordable housing. There's not a lot you can do to help, but there are a few things. One is you can allow builders to build smaller homes. A smaller home costs less. If you give them density bonus to have more homes built per acre, that helps offset the fact they may be making less money per unit as opposed to a larger house. That's a new idea that some cities are not comfortable with. Unfortunately, we had a meeting with a person running for city council in the local city here, and there was such a project that was being proposed in his city. He was running, and we asked him what his thoughts were on this project. And he said, I'm gonna vote, if I get elected, I'm gonna vote against it. And we asked him why. And he said, because those small homes, that high density is the ghetto of the future. And I'm not gonna support it. That's a problem. When you believe that people who are homeowners and that just happen to live in a smaller house that may be on a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot lot are going to be the ghetto of the future, you've got a political problem, and you have to fix that. And that's a huge challenge.
Oh, thank you for that. That's one of the challenges that we face with affordability is to really bring new ideas to the table. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this to AREAA and AREAA to have a platform for this is because the Asian community is used to density. We're also like to have our elders with us. So the idea of having home builders actually build a multi-generational product, is that something that you're seeing or a trend that you think could work in your community?
So probably the best piece of legislation coming out of Sacramento in the last 5 years was the ADU policy statewide. Literally, most cities prior to, I think it was 2017 when the law passed, did not let you build an accessory dwelling unit, a granny flat, call it what you want, on your property. Essentially, the statewide legislation said, no, we will basically force every city to adopt a policy that will allow people to build an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, a detached product on that lot that can be built. And you have to do it with certain standards, we get it, but you cannot deny the person the ability to do that. We saw in California in 2021, I haven't seen 22 data yet, over 50,000 units built statewide. That's huge. That is a significant amount of units built. In fact, I built one last year at my house, and my 90-year-old mom lives at my place now. Absolutely, I think that's a huge win for California to have that policy, and I see no reason why that doesn't continue to grow statewide, regionally, everywhere. It makes sense.
Okay. No, thank you. I think this is a great segue actually to the next segment because we certainly detailed out the macro issues that we're dealing with as far as creating more housing supply. But is there anything that you can probably give us like a reason for hope as to what we can do to increase that supply?
Well,
Sorry,
I focused on leadership and leadership development and education of elected leaders. So I will give one quick story. We have a political action committee, we give small amounts of money to politicians running. This guy running for office comes in, sits down with 15 realtors in the room. Before he even is asked a question, he volunteers and says, I want everybody to know I've never been a homeowner and I'm really proud to say that. Okay, read the room, dude. We're the wrong audience to brag about not being a homeowner. We asked him why. He said, well, I think homeownership is oversold. I think homeownership is problematic for people. They can find themselves upside down on a mortgage. The values can drop, and he gave all these excuses. Okay, he did not get our support. However, he won, and he is an elected official in the region. Here's the win. Since he's taken office, we have a realtor liaison assigned to meet with him about every 3 to 4 months. We meet with this person, we go over the numbers, we answer questions, we propose ideas. And I will say this, in the years of us working with him and, quote, educating him, he's pro-housing now. Not 100%, he's got some strange issues out there, but aside from that, it's a win. We were able to basically bring him along, and he is now, I would say, a housing advocate.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that answer. And, one of the reasons why we want to do this at AREAA is because not everyone realizes the challenges of actually increasing supply and all the parties that need to agree to make that happen. You have the policymakers, you have the builders that actually are really holding all the risk, because a lot of times they're asked by the public officials to pay for off-sites, to pay for, the schools and walkways and things like that, that really increase the cost of development. And then you have the fact that in the state of California, that entitlement process takes so much longer that it estimated is about 30% adds to the cost of development in the state of California because of the high barrier to entry to actually get those entitlements. So thank you very much for that. We also need to be aware as a community that we need to be more comfortable with diversity and actually density in our communities, because we all deserve a place to live. We all deserve the opportunity to have home ownership. In order to make that happen, we have to be willing to be more open with the products that are going to be coming in the future. Even though they might not be traditional, there's certainly that first on-ramp to home ownership. So thank you so much for giving us the macro and micro view of this. And I don't want to get in the way of the break and your ability to go to the bathroom, so we'll reconvene at 10:15. Thank you so much.